The 10th Amendment to the Constitution states, "The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people." In this declaration by our founders, the federal government cannot exceed the powers expressly given to it in the Constitution. The states retain powers under their constitutions, as do the people of those states. James Madison explained the significance of the 10th Amendment, saying, "Interference with the power of the states was no constitutional criterion of the power of Congress. If the power was not given, Congress could not exercise it. If it is given, they might exercise it, although it should not interfere with the laws or even the constitutions of the states." In one of the finest decisions ever to grace the Supreme Court, the 10th Amendment was used by the justices to retain the power of the states and its people. The year was 1935. The Great Depression was on, and the federal government took broad powers to curb the national crisis. But was this constitutional? In the period of just 1 year, the New Deal under FDR produced 10,000 pages of federal law. Just one of these laws, the National Recovery Act, or the NRA, generated more paper than the entire legislative output of the federal government since 1789. This was more legislation than the nation had ever seen and was federal government overreach at its largest. This is something James Madison warned against when he said, "It will be of little avail to the people that the laws are made by men of their own choice if the laws be so voluminous that they cannot be read, or so incoherent that they cannot be understood." The NRA contained 485 codes which regulated local and state prices and sales practices. One of these codes was called the Code of Fair Competition for the Live Poultry Industry of the metropolitan area in and about the city of New York. Local businesses could not set their own prices, and they could not allow customers to select their own products. The Schechters were a family of 5 brothers who were affected by this code. They were second-generation Jewish immigrants who ran a modest kosher poultry shop, and they were very proud of their quality product, their ability to work with their customers, and their ability to keep prices down. When the NRA was enacted, they were willing to comply when a government inspector came into their shop. However, he prevented their customers from selecting their own chickens and even swore at them and told them to get out. The inspector even called the local police to arrest the brothers for price cutting, among other violations, but the local police looked out for their own. The Schechters were taken to court anyway for violation of federal law, and their case went all the way to the Supreme Court. In a landmark 9-0 decision, the 10th Amendment was invoked and upheld. While the justices acknowledged the extraordinary conditions of the Great Depression, they noted that, quote, "extraordinary conditions do not create or enlarge constitutional power. Those who act under the grant of power from the Constitution are not at liberty to transcend the imposed limits because they believe that more or different power is necessary." And as an awesome footnote, Justice Brandeis said to the New Deal lawyer Tommy Corcoran, "This is the end of this business of centralization, and I want you to go back and tell the president that we're not going to let this government centralize everything. It's come to an end." In a more recent 2013 decision, the 10th Amendment was again upheld, but this time by a much slimmer 5-4 margin. In Shelby County versus Holder, this case was brought on behalf of a group of mostly southern states which were being required to seek permission from the federal government in order to make changes in their voting laws. The court decided that under our Constitution, the states enjoy, quote, "equal sovereignty, which is essential to the scheme upon which the Republic was organized," end quote. While these are 2 examples of the upholding of the 10th Amendment, sadly there are many other cases in which the court chooses to invoke and sometimes to stretch the Commerce Clause in order to exercise authority over the states in lieu of ruling based on the 10th Amendment. In Titus 1, verse 5, Paul writes to Titus and says, "The reason I left you in Crete was to set in order the remaining matters and to appoint elders in every town as I directed you." Early church structure, Bible scholars say, provided that authority was vested in a plurality of men at the local church level. The leaders of the church were to honor and uphold this local authority. The 10th Amendment reflects a biblical principle that honors the local authority structure and maintains accountability to the government and to one another in their native areas. It was intended to give a beautiful and wide-ranging freedom to the people. As James Madison wrote in Federalist No. 45, "The powers delegated by the proposed Constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and indefinite."